Hi guys, MG here. I thought I would try to do something to help you a little bit with algebra. So I thought I'd show you just some basic stuff here. And then maybe we can do a little bit of solve for x. This is going to be fast. There's a lot here. Parents, if you're paying attention, take this stuff and maybe have them watch it and then talk about it some more. You can add some to it. Okay, so here's the thing. So in algebra, there's certain terms and certain expressions and things like that that we're going to use a lot. One of them is constant, one of them is variable, one of them is coefficient. And if you're going like, wait, I don't understand, that's why I'm going to tell you this stuff. Why do you need to know it? Every kid wants to know, why do I need to know this? You're going to use this again and again and again. If you don't understand these terms, it will definitely make it more difficult. So, think back in the day when you had a little line with a dot above and a dot below, that meant divide, right? And at one point they told you that little line with those two dots meant divide, and you needed to know that. And if you didn't, it would have been really hard when the teacher says, they have like 8 divided by 2, and you went, I don't know what that thing means. I guess subtract. Does that mean subtract? You need to know it. So there are some terms that are important to know. When we think about something you often see in algebra, you'll see something like this. You'll see 5, let's see, A, and so you have that right there, 5A. We'll just keep it simple, Simon. Now, does the 5 ever change? Well, I don't know. Let's think about it. I'm going to give you some numbers here. 3, 5, 7, 2. Make that look more like a comma. Might look a little weird, but you get my point. So these right here, is a 3 always a 3? Yes, it's always a 3. It always remains constant. It's always what it is. A 7, does a 7 always remain a 7? Yes. So if someone says 7, do you go, I wonder how many that it is. Does it sometimes change? Well, yesterday 7 meant 7, and today it means, 7. It stayed constant. And so what we do is we call these things constants. And constants are always, wait for it, constant. How's that? And then the next thing we have, I'm going to get rid of this real quick. Draw a line right here. By the way, if you like the word constant, there's a great tea called Constant Comment. And they often make it in decaf, and it's delicious. Little spice in there, a little orange, cinnamon. Try that. Okay, so the next thing we have is we have what we call variables. And when we think about something that's variable, it varies. One day it's like this, one day it's like that. Do you have any friends that are that way? One day they're like this, the next day they're like that. Your dog's that way. All of a sudden he loves you, and the next time he just won't even come over. Cats are really bad that way, right? So we say those things vary. One day they're like this, the next day they're like that. One day you like chocolate ice cream, the next day you like, coffee ice cream or vanilla ice cream. It varies. And what's your favorite flavor of ice cream? Okay, so we have these things that are variables, and so letters are usually called variables. So we think about it, we have Y, A, B, N, all of those things. And one day we're going to say Y stands for Y equals 3. And does Y always equal 3 forever and ever and ever? No. Sometimes Y will equal, 1,000. Other times Y will equal -5. And so that's going to change. Those are always going to vary. And so what we're going to do is call those variables. Because they, say it with me, vary, right? So those are always going to vary. Now, sometimes we put those together. Now, this is just a letter, right? Just a letter. There's no number in front, right? And these are just numbers, right? Now, first of all, I'm going to tell you something, and this you're going to have to remember. So this right here, let's get rid of all these. By the way, I'm doing this for you, so pay attention. And so let's take a letter. What's your favorite letter? B? Oh, good choice. B, all right? There's B. Now we could say maybe 3b, right? We could say 4b or negative 4b, right? We could do that. And, we can make this negative 3b, right? We can do all of that. So the question here is, with this one, is there a number in front of that b? I don't see a number. There's always a number there. How many b's are here? How many b's do you see? How many b's do you see? 1. So even though we don't write that 1 there, it's 1b. If I said, what is this? You'd say, well, that's a pen. Well, could I say it's 1 pen? I could say, hey, can I borrow 1 pen? And you might say that, but usually you just say, can I borrow a pen, right? But we all know if you say, can I borrow a pen, you really mean, can I borrow 1 pen? But we don't say it because it's kind of silly. Hey, Mom, can I have, I don't know, 1 toothpaste? You say, no, Mom, can I have some toothpaste, right? So there's always a number in front of that. Remember, there's always a number. Is there a number in front of there? Yes. What's the number? Remember, 1, right? Okay, good. So what do we call these when it's a letter? What did we call it? These we call constants. These we call what? Yes, variables. Very good, very good. Okay, now, sometimes we have a number in front of this that we can see. There's always a 1 if there's no number. But let's say we have this and it's 4b. So we would say, given what we know, what is this? We'd say that's a variable. And given what we know, what is this? We'd say, well, that 4, that's a constant. But what about when they're side by side? That's when it changes. Okay, so that's when it changes. And I'll tell you what, I'm even going to change marker colors because it's just kind of fun. If you have ADD or something, and you get distracted by everything, maybe this drives you crazy, but maybe it also helps you pay attention. It always helps me pay attention. So with this right here, we have these two things where the 4s we were calling constants and the b's we were calling variables, but now when they're side by side, we change it. What we do is we call this right here, instead of a number and a letter, when it gets like this, we call it an expression. You really need to know this stuff. It's called an expression. And this no longer is called a constant because it's attached to the b. They're married there. And so this right here, we call the coefficient. Now, someone is probably saying, why do we call it a coefficient? I bet there's a good reason. And I bet there is. And I think you should look it up. And then you can find out. This is still a variable, but then when we put a number in front of it, we call it a coefficient. Now, what do we call this whole thing right here? Do you remember? When it's together like that? I told you. Were you paying attention? It's called an expression. Now, sometimes that 4b could be a negative 4b. Okay, put a little negative sign out there. Still called an expression. Does that look like a negative sign? Is that better? Sorry, the board's kind of janky. I'm just doing the best I can. I want to just do something for you guys right away. I don't have much time. I'm going to be going over to Denver. I'm taking this real estate class. And all I had was this morning, and I thought, I'm going to try to do something. So this b, though, sometimes that has a number up there, an exponent, b squared, or I'm sorry, b to the second power. If you want to sound fancy and all that, you can call it b squared when it goes to the 2. We can call it b squared. That's a little pro tip. Right here, we can put maybe a 3. Maybe it's negative 4b to the third power. And you might have known about b to the second power being squared. B to the third power is called b cubed. Now, this is a lot of stuff. But what I'm hoping is one, if you watch this a few times, it will really, really, really help. It's like legal cheating. I mean, watching a video is way easier than studying, I think. But also, for the parents, this is what they need to know, and you can use this as a framework for helping them. Okay, so we have this right here. Now, this is what I want to show you. Sometimes we'll want to add these together. All right. So I'm going to give you an example of one that's pretty simple. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say we're going to have, let's say, 2a plus 3a. Okay? here's 2a plus 3a. And if at some point right now you're thinking, gosh, I bet he could do a better job if he only did such and such, I bet I could. I'm just not able to do it right now. So I'm doing the best I can. So 2a plus 3a. Sometimes that gets confusing and people go, well, I don't know what that means. Think of it like this. We're going to think about markers, all right? Do you agree that all these are whiteboard markers? Yes, of course they are. They're different colors, but that's okay. Here, you want me to turn them upside down? Would that make it better? There. Are these markers? Yes, they're markers. So, if I have 2 markers and someone gives me 3 markers, like that better? Like that? So if I have 2 markers, we can think of that as A, 2A. And I have 3 more markers, well, that's I have 3 there. How many markers do I have all day? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? You can count that. And so we know that this equals 5 markers. Oh, I mean A, right? That's how you need to think of it. These, when you see a letter A or B or C, just think of it as like maybe a marker, something like that. So if I said you have, watch this. If you have 1 marker and someone gives you 2 markers, you have 3 markers, right? Easy, right? So that'd be like 1, and we said A. Could we say B? Could we call it C? Could we call it D? We can call it any letter we want. So I have 1Z plus 2 Z's is 3Z, right? Simple. I'll tell you where everyone makes the mistake. This is where they make the mistake. So that means pay attention. So we had our 2A, right? We had our 2A. And we're going to say 2A, and when we're going to do this, we're going to think of A's as markers, right? That's what we said. Can you see that? Does it fit in there? Yeah, you can see it. And then now, maybe we'd have something other than just markers. What else could we have? Well, let's say we have 4, and we're going to use the letter B. And what should we say B's are? Let's call them brushes. Brushes. Okay, brushes. Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, does he actually have brushes there? Oh, but I do. I do. So, I have 4 brushes. Look at that, huh? Ba-ba. So, if I said, I'm going to add these 2 things up, right? So, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say 2A. This is the important part, because this is where kids make mistakes all the time. Plus, where am I? Oh, 4B. And a lot of times what people will do is they'll say, oh, well, that's 6. 6 what? 6AB. No, that doesn't make sense. We've already said A's are markers, right? There's A's. And if I said, I'm going to take 2 markers and add 4 brushes, what do I have? Do I have 6 brushes? No. Do I have 6 markers? No. What do I have? I have 2 markers and 4 brushes. That's what it is. I can't put them together. You know, it doesn't work. And so I know one of you is thinking, well, you could use them both for writing and making marks. Yes, you can. Forget about that. Maybe it's not a perfect example. But you have 2 markers and 4 brushes. I can't put them together. And so what this is saying is this is 2 markers plus 4 brushes. Can I combine it? I can't, because A and B are not the same. Now, before what we said was, let's go back with the brushes. All right? And with the brushes, watch this. This is going to tie back in with what I was saying before. If you've been paying attention, you're going to get this. If not, you're going to be like, oh, maybe I need to watch the video again. Maybe you do. Okay, so ready for this? We're going to say B stands for brushes. So if I'm going to say 2 plus B equals, well, it says I have 2 brushes, right? That's the 2. What number is in front of the B? Did you remember? I told you there's a number in front of the letter, right? If there's no number, is there really a number there? Yes. So if you remember, that's 1. So I'm saying it's 2 brushes plus 1 brush. How many brushes do I have? 3. So if I'm to work this as an equation, 2b plus b equals 3b. Really what I'm doing is I'm collecting my b's. I'm saying, how many do I have here? I have 2. How many do I have here? I have 1, right? Easy peasy. Now, could this work in reverse? Could we do this a different way? Well, what if this always get the marker on your finger there. What does this say now? 2b minus b. So if I have 2 brushes minus b, what number's in front of there? Correct, 1. So I have two brushes minus 1 brush. What am I left with? 1 brush. Now I'll tell you what a lot of people do. They'll go like this. They'll say the answer is 1 brush or 1b. Do we have to put the 1 there? No, we don't. Is there 1 here? Yes, we all know that. Do I have to put 1b? No, I can just put b. That's something that's good to remember. So, there you go. That's that. And now, remember, if someone says you got 2 brushes and you're going to add 1 brush, one marker, it's not, is this a brush? No. Is this a marker? No. Can't add them together. So we have 2 brushes plus 1 marker. Okay, so there you go. Now, I'm going to take a little bit more advanced. I know I gave you a bunch, and you can break this down and do all kinds of stuff with it, but for right now, I'm going to go on and show you something else, and this is really important. Okay, now, so now, sometimes what you'll see is stuff like this, and this is where kids make the mistake. I'm trying to show you the areas where things go wrong. So you're going to do a bunch of this stuff that I just showed you. If you're in your textbook somewhere, and some examples somewhere, you're going to be putting these expressions. Remember expression, like 2a is an expression. You're going to be putting these together. 2a plus 3a plus 4a equals what? I bet one of you figured it out when I said that, right? But sometimes they look like they go together, but they don't. Okay, so if we have 2a, and you're going, yeah, I remember that, plus a to the 2nd power, otherwise a squared for the cool kids, right? And we go, well, those are both a's, right? Those are both a's. Not really. So this is saying 2a, and this is saying a to the 2nd power, or a squared. I'll probably call it a squared a lot. Those you can't put together. And you go, well, they're both a's, aren't they? Sort of. Now, this squared thing, we can talk about that some more, but this is how I want you to think about it. All right, ready? Hang tight, hang tight. What are these? Oops. What are those? Would you agree those are like sticks, right? Popsicle sticks. And then I have something that looks just the same. Those look the same, right? Huh? Popsicle sticks? Popsicle sticks? But are these really popsicle sticks? Oh, look at that. They're a little bit different, aren't they? So we'd say they look the same, right? They look the same. These look the same, a and a squared. But this is how this works. These are different. If I said, how many popsicle sticks would you have? You'd say, well, those are kind of like popsicle sticks, but they aren't the same. We'd say I have 3 of these and 2 of these. They're both sticks. They're both made out of, I don't know, pine or something. You know, they're both in the same shape, but they aren't the same. So this right here and this right here, even though they're similar, they're not the same. So let's look at our example up here. So we have 2a, let's use these, 2a And then we have a squared. A squared is a different thing. So that's like the fat one. So we have two of these. Well, how can I do this? Like this. Two of these plus one of these. See how that lines up? How cool is that? So they aren't the same. They're similar, but they're not the same. They're both made out of wood. They're both in the same shape, but they're not the same. So it's really important to remember we cannot combine these two. It's like saying brushes and pens. They're different, but they both have an A. I know they both have an A, but they're not the same. You can't combine them. So if someone says to you, what is 2A plus A squared? You can only say, it's 2A plus A squared. I can't do anything with it. I can't combine them. If it was A plus B, could we combine them? No, we can't. It's just A plus B. Two markers, one pen. One brush. So I hope that helps some. I'd love to do some more of this stuff with you. I'll try to do this. Next time, I think what I'll do is I'll show you how to actually solve for x. So like when we have stuff like this, and I'll do that. I'll make that one as another video. This was about 20 minutes long. I hope you actually enjoyed it. I did my best, right? A little bit janky with this, but anyway. So I leave for Denver, and so I'll see if I can send something your way. See you guys.